Welcome to the Altered State podcast. We have my good friend, if not what I consider family, Abder, here as our first guest of the podcast. Abder, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. How are you doing today?
Good, good. We're just talking a bit
Mhm.
and yeah, feeling good. You know, had a good day. It's a bit of rain, but
So, welcome. And yeah, altered states. So, let me ask you, Abder, which altered states have been key to your growth and development?
it's a good question. Um, well, I would say my work with ayahuasca and with wachuma, have been the most impactful to my growth and development, right? To specifically growing as a human being, healing from past trauma, from dysfunctional patterns. That's where I have gotten the most value. Uh, yeah,
And exactly what about ayahuasca or what Chima specifically do you feel have been so important to you?
I guess just the relationship that I've developed over the years, working with. I started with ayahuasca. I had some
Mm,
experiences before with mushrooms, first like just recreationally. Um, and using them recreationally didn't mean that they didn't have anything to teach me or show me. It was just that I wasn't in the most receptible state to be able to
mm,
be open to that, to implement that, to want to
mm,
look at it, right? So once I started my work with ayahuasca, it was like just more intentional, right? Like it was
yeah.
booking a um, booking an appointment at the center, working towards it, having an intention, doing it in a group setting, uh, having like after share, hearing from people, being connected to that community and to the people sharing the experience. And um,
It's definitely much different when you have the intention, right? Because when you're using psychedelics, I mean, I always say these things, everything's neutral. It's just a tool. Depends on how you use it, and the intention when you're using it can give you a completely different experience. I mean, most people who take LSD for partying, or that's how they usually get introduced to it, for partying or in some kind of recreational sense. And they're tripping, they're seeing extra lights, they're happy and everything. When I took LSD for the first time, I had the most one of the most amazing spiritual experiences that uh, I've ever had on psychedelics, and it was also very connected to all of my previous psychedelic efforts. I think that once you start down the road and you've had the intention of doing the spiritual work, and you take a psychedelic with the intention of partying, you might still get some spiritual lessons out of it too. But definitely the intention and everything just matters so much. What was your experience when you didn't have the intention? Like with the mushroom, what was the difference between the way you were using it at first and the experience you were having after?
well, that was a long time ago, so I have to dig a bit in my memory too. And I was also like very young at the time, when I was using recreational, like in my teens, between like 16 and like 19. That's when I
Mm,
started to work with ayahuasca. So like, and I've worked with mushrooms after that, and that was different. But like, just using them recreationally was just like taking them with friends on a Friday evening and just sitting at the park. And well, looking back at that, what mushrooms did is they they showed me a lot of my fears, right? They
Mm.
showed me a lot of beautiful things, and they opened my mind to, like, especially just the wonder for life and awe, and just like, just having that spark again of looking at the world in new,
Mm.
with like fresh eyes, with like the eyes of a child, right? Like
Right.
just being in wonder of everything and our existence. But they also showed me just a lot of like anxiety and fear that I had
Mm.
in me. And that would manifest in just like, I don't know, just like sometimes paranoia, just being
Right.
outside and thinking like, I don't know, like the cops are coming, or thinking that I looked crazy, or, it was, yeah, it brought, it opened my eyes to what was within me,
Mm.
right?
There was another plant teacher that you had a similar experience with, right? I believe your relationship to weed. I mean, the way you're talking about when you're doing mushrooms for the first time also reminds me of your journey with weed, which is a wonderful alter state that I love, but you have experience with too. Are those two connected? Because it seems like from what you told me before, weed was giving you similar lessons to what mushrooms are doing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been a question that I've been wondering about like for a long time, and I do believe that like marijuana can be used in a healthy way. You can have a healthy relationship with it, but you can also have an unhealthy dependency and addiction
Mm.
with it. So uh, that's what does make it a bit different from regular psychedelics, where the uh, addictive tendency, or
Mm.
the um, yeah, is way less, right?
Yeah, it's way
Uh,
less. It's still there though, because I have seen like people get addicted to 5-MeO DMT, smoking it. Yeah, just like you can't imagine getting addicted to that, right? It's like it's so overpowering, and yet it happens. But definitely, like you can have some substances more than other have this adverse relationship with. It's sort of your relationship to the substance and how you're using it that creates your experience. But
yeah,
even if you have a
but what,
negative relationship with it, it can still teach you a lot of things.
just what you said about like people being addicted to
Mm-hmm.
5-MeO, like I just wonder, right? Like if I try to define addiction, it's like a pattern of like escapism, of like um, how do you say that? Like just neglecting, like using it to avoid like a lot of like looking at sitting with your own feelings or problems that you have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, I just can't imagine like choosing 5-MeO as a way to do that, right? Like, or does that
Yeah.
addiction look differently? Like,
Oh man, it's a specific case I've seen myself was just interesting. It's just the ego entrapment loop kind of thing, I believe, what I've observed. Um, and being too much in that realm when you're using psychedelics and not coming down, not doing the integration as much, you have a tendency to kind of just be up in the sky. And if you're not anchored, there's a lot of chance of delusion. Uh, your spiritual ego can like get attached and have like visions of grandeur, and a lot of these traps that become available to you once you start doing more psychedelics and more spiritual work, you have to be guarded to yourselves, like not become too attached, and you have to stay aware, which you can be very up in the sky and just like all these spiritual concepts and beings that you can interact with and different frequencies that allow you to see different worlds. But when you're no longer connected to this world, that's kind of an escapism into that realm, and your spiritual ego becoming attached to being this divine being, which you technically are, and even the psychedelics might still be showing you truth. But if you're attached to being in that state at the cost of being in this state, I think that's what I saw.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like an addiction to like self help. It's like a thing that makes you feel good, you know? It's like you consume it, you envision it, you live in the reality that like you're doing it, but in actuality you're just,
Yeah.
I don't know, just needing that to feel
Mhm.
good, to function,
Yeah.
needing that, like relying on it instead of using it as a tool
Yeah.
towards growth.
Definitely, and I also think is specifically what comes to mind was there was a sense of wanting to master the substance. This specific encounter where I saw someone who was addicted, like in my set, like my idea of addicted, was a shaman. So, and I think the shaman was just trying to master this medicine and thinking they would master it through just constantly being on it. And if you are doing this work, if you're facilitating and you're going through journeys a lot, there is a sense of trying to master things. There is a sense of like, I'm trying to get in this state and be able to move the energy up and down during a ceremony and be able to guide groups. There is definitely the sense of mastery and experimentation that any good facilitator or shaman, I think, participates in. But then again, for everyone, it can go a little too far. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And I know this shaman has stepped out of that and is growing and healing and integrating from that. So they've recognized that and are moving past that addiction. But just you can still get in the addictive state of grandeur and spiritual attachments and all these different traps that open up. Like this is one thing with personal growth and using altered states to grow and getting new states of being. There's always new traps. Like Leo Gura talks about this a lot too. There's always new traps that open up, and you have to try to stay aware and open to seeing that and because a lot of us just get trapped in like, oh, I don't want to acknowledge that I'm doing something bad or not good. You know, it's like cognitive dissonance kicks in and everything, and you have to just be more willing and open to see your own mistakes. And it's a practice of this non-judgmental attitude towards yourself, just discernment and like, okay, thank you for awareness, and then moving on to healing that part.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that you mentioned Leo. I haven't been following him for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and well, from time to time, I just check his blog because I do think he has like great resources, and I saw this like apology from him. It's like this written apology to
Oh,
people,
really?
and he was just talking about how he has been. Uh, like his relationship to humanity and to
Mm.
people, like in his pursuit of the highest states of consciousness, he's been, in his words, he said he's been neglectful and dismissive of suffering of people, right? He's like, I don't care, just, you know,
The
and
guy definitely has like his own unique ego, and I definitely remember a moment where it's like, listen to this guy. This guy's freaking brilliant. He
he
really
is,
is,
he
but
is,
he
and he
gets
works
attached
hard.
in his own ways, and he has his own traps that he still falls into. And I can see his ego, but I can also see that he's trying to not always be there. And I just appreciate that, and just always like I'm watching him through a filter of like, just don't pay attention to the ego because it's so there.
Yeah, 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 like, yeah, there are indeed a lot of traps in, this journey.
But you were telling me about his apology. Was it like just about the suffering that he's been neglectful of, or what specifically about it stood out to you?
Well, so I don't know. He has like his 10 years anniversary or something of actualized, and he was just talking about like he went through. He has talked about in the past how he has major health issues. I don't know exactly what it is, but he has always talked about like struggling with major health issues.
Uh,
And recently he said something happened that's been causing a lot of suffering into his life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been like an eye opener, that of his neglect to his followers, to people who would come to him saying,
Mm-hmm.
like, I suffer with this, and I don't know, just
Yeah.
something like that.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. That's interesting to see that. Always nice to have more awareness, and I think I see that a lot with people in this space, spirituality. There's like very weird illnesses going around. Uh, is it like some part of your spiritual awareness and yourself, your own state, when you're not paying attention to your dark sides enough, they can manifest as diseases in very specific ways. But then again, you see this common um, concept of like once you deal with that and you heal it, there is a chance that it goes away. There's also a very good chance that some people I feel like have done their work on Earth and their spirit chooses to leave. Steve Jobs comes to mind. I don't know. I heard about him recently, how he died, and the words he said when he died is like, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." Um, and I know he was involved in some ayahuasca and some different altered states himself as well, going on these different journeys. Um, and sometimes our work on Earth is done.
Yeah, I've only heard of him like using LSD, right? Like
Mm,
that's a big one that I think he said that he couldn't have invented Apple or had the innovation or the engineering or whatever it was without his experience with LSD, right? That
yeah,
just opened patterns or opened, yeah, just the vision.
yeah. Allows us access to that new. I think like one of these things about altered states is we are able to tap into different frequencies. The thoughts that we have on a day to day, I think, are we are more like receivers than generators in that sense. And when you get into meditation, you will have access to different thoughts and different ideas. And when you're not in that state, because you're receiving a different frequency. Um, and same when you're on psychedelics, I believe you're tapping into a frequency that sometimes even allows you to see different colors, get out of your body, um, just see all of these wonderful, amazing things that you usually can't see. They're always there, just not tapping into that frequency with your state of being. And the way to do that is to change your state of being. And you can do this naturally too. Like the psychedelics are innate, but you can get into that altered state without them.
Yeah, right. Like when you work out, like I feel, that I'm in a different altered state than, you know, um, when I do my yoga practice. I feel very much altered. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. We drink a cup of coffee, I guess. you know,
Yeah.
um, when you're just eye gazing with your loved one, that
Hmm.
also feels like an
Oh
altered
yeah,
state. So yeah, there are many,
definitely.
many altered states. Um, I've been reading this book lately. It's a
Hmm.
work of like science fiction. It's called Nexus by, let me just, Ramix Nam. And the guy is very interesting because he is, so Nexus is like it's a
Hmm.
trilogy of books. It's like three, and um, it's many things. But like Nexus is a drug, right? It's
Hmm.
like, but it's like a bioengineered drug that is able to attach itself to uh, your brain, to the
Oh,
neuroreceptors, and
okay.
there are like, it's been developed, and he starts with like the development of Nexus 5, which um, like there's an OS, just like any OS that you have on your phone, on your computer, has been put on it. And the interesting thing is, at the end of the book, he explains just like his inspiration, right? And his inspiration comes from real world uh, advancement in science, um, especially in like our ability to um, take information out of the brain and send information into the brain. There are many experiments, there are many ways in which we do that. It's just like very small, right? Like how we help people to see who have never seen, you know? There are experiments
Right.
which put um, put a chip in the brain connected to the neurons, and but like the amount that we're able to send is like so small of information. And what he has done with the book is just extend that. It's just like, it's just a matter of time um, till we find the technology to increase how much and the speed of at which we can send information into the brain and take it out. And what this drugs allows them to do is like connect people's mind, right? It's very much an exploration of like
Interesting.
psychedelics um,
Interesting.
and
Interesting.
the evolution of consciousness and the different states that uh, people are able to reach when their minds are connected, the
Mm.
insights, the the advancement in so many things, right?
Yeah. Interesting. You can always almost like imagine someone connect like me chopping my brain plug into yours, and then you can see how I experience the world and I can see how you experience the world,
Exactly.
and
You could
how
share
vastly different that can be.
memories, emotions, thoughts, you know.
I like the way of thinking about this as a way to access each other's and community access each other's consciousness and communicate better, way more than most conversations about this, which is becoming immortal and shoving a chip in your brain and downloading your consciousness in there and then putting it in a different body later, that kind of stuff. Because I don't think we need that because we're already immortal. It's like I don't need a technological immortal version of myself. But
Well, yeah,
if there's something that allows me to connect to other humans in such a different way that we are able to understand and communicate a lot better, that's much more interesting to me.
yeah. Well, there's in the book. There's also the exploration of like uh, post-human and what's the terminology for the in one in between? Like just enhanced humans. There's like post-human, which is what you're talking about, like which is like uploading consciousness and running that on a quantum computer and uh, virtually uh, replicating like everything that organic, like right, like neurons,
Mhm.
neurosynapses, uh, enzymes, just like everything, uh, or just the enhancement of which already is, right? Like giving
Mhm.
us access to which we already have and
Yeah,
being
I
able
prefer
to
that, but
enhance those things.
I wonder how long the enhancement would last. If that would cripple our ability to be able to do it naturally and biologically, because I think that telepathy and being able to be connected in the same way that this technology potentially offers is possible for us down the line of natural evolution. I think that the human body is divine in itself, is an amazingly powerful technology that can expand through evolution. And through awareness, we can become aware of our energy body and have experiences of everything that's really going on there. Because there's so much going on, there's so much more going on with the body, the energy body, and everything that's a part of it that extends even outside of what we physically see and recognize as our bodies, that we can become aware of and that we can use in the same way that you're saying this technology offers. So what I'm like afraid of here is that like, oh, we start using this and it kind of handicaps us from being able to connect in this way naturally. It replaces our ability to do it naturally, and what I would believe will do it even so much better than technology can ever do it, because it is real, it's already built in, and it's within our own consciousness and our own body. We don't necessarily need to add something to it. And if we do, the same way that if you start taking too much B12 supplement, or too much of some uh, testosterone or whatever, then your body starts producing less of it. So it's like, oh, I don't need it anymore. I'm doing it this way. So
Yeah,
would that
yeah,
handicap
that's
us?
well, the way he like explains it or approaches is like the next generations of children who have born from mothers taking nexus, right? Who don't have nexus in them, but uh, the integration of nexus in their
Mm-hmm.
brain is like to a degree which is like way more sophisticated, integrated. They're able to use
Mm-hmm.
it way better, you know. And I hear you in saying like, would
Or,
this replace our
mm-hmm.
natural ability to do that, you know? Like, but I don't know that, you know, like it could
Yeah,
also like help us
tap into it.
develop. Yeah, exactly, help us develop and grow into, help shape our brain to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do that without it, like learn, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I'm curious because like it's an interesting conversation to have, because I don't think there's anything such as evil. It's the way you implement things that determines that. Um, and you're saying like someone who's the mother who took this, and then the child naturally grows like from that. And I think like, children are consciousness in itself, and I wonder if that would help the child to naturally also just tap into these abilities, um, or if not.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's curious.
and, another type of work that's um, I don't know, that's like written as if it's like real, but like I don't know, you could see it as science fiction. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, like the
Mhm.
raw material.
The what material?
Raw, raw, R.
Ra. Oh,
Yeah,
RA.
yeah,
Yes, I've
yeah.
heard of it. Follow this one guy that talks mostly about that. Forget his name. Lawnmower
Is
break.
it? Is it? Is it Aaron Apke?
Yeah, it
Yeah, yeah.
is. Yes.
I know. But like the interesting thing is like, so Ra is this other civilization which is like way into the future and was,
Hmm.
but like the interesting exploration or what they explain is they talk about like the evolution of consciousness, right? And
Hmm.
they explain that they are like a consciousness, which is a collective consciousness of individuals which have merged, right? As a
Yes.
civilization, as a planet, right?
Right.
Um,
It kind of is like everyone's interconnected. They're able to like telepathically connect, kind of like a hive mind, but still more individualistic abilities than just hive mind control.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I don't know. In some ways, like the internet is the first. It's like the first
Yes,
realization of that, right?
it's like the first little mycelium network that like allows us to connect to information in a different way, and to each other, and to each other's thoughts, and uh, what each other we're saying. Like we're not really seeing what's behind that emotionally or logically. Or there's a lot of propaganda in that still. There's a lot of I think that's interesting. We're seeing when we get access to this large amount of information, and we're learning how to deal with it. There's a lot of text toxic elements that are coming out, that we're learning how to regulate and read. We all have to grow this discernment now. It's like what information is telling me the truth on the internet and what's not, because the internet can be anything and definitely doesn't have to be real. It can be AI generated at this point, which a lot of it is. That's another crazy thing. AI is the next level of this, where you can't necessarily believe everything that's online. You have to build up like your knowledge, and you have to go really learn, really learn, and build good discernment because there's a lot of fake shit out there. And it's
Yeah.
like that's with
And
any like layer of information. You're saying like this next layer of information, more interconnectedness, might bring new challenges, but also these new opportunities for being able to be connected. Because how do you think people would deal with if you could hear every thought that's in my head, and I could hear every single thought that's in your head? People would get so offended at each other. Like, even though we're friends, I'm sure sometimes you think, "Ah, this asshole is just interrupting me again," or something, or with your girlfriend, or anyone with your family. There's these thoughts that you have. It's like, I'm never gonna say this to that person. What if like everyone could hear every single one of those?
well, I would hope that we would maintain some kind of like agency around
Right?
that, right? That we would be able to like open the gates to towards that, right? Like
Mhm.
to be able to invite somebody or to get into somebody's
Right.
mind with like their permission and the access, right? And to be able to like maybe even like show some parts, right? Like not to give like full access to like the whole spectrum, you know? Uh,
Right. That would be problematic. I can imagine that. But that'd be one hell of a altered state from where we are now. That's for sure. No, that's definitely interesting. I love that. Let's get back to. Like, I have another question. Um, yeah, which altered states have been most harmful to you in your journey?
I would say uh, like alcohol, using just alcohol as an altered state, just the neurotoxicity, the biological toxicity of the liver, it's just the impact it has on your cognition, just not great.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because just today I was reading an article about like this new, um, it's not new, it's called Sentient, and it's a drink that's been, I guess, engineered to be able to like um, trigger the same receptors as alcohol does, so like the GABA receptors, without all the toxicity of alcohol, without the hangover, without, you know. So I don't know that like being able to selectively um, stimulate those GABA receptors. Um, yeah, but I'm going off track with like I
No
guess that's a
worries.
way of like using that without all the
Uh,
negative, you know.
right.
Uh,
Right. It was like, what made you like finally like I don't know. Do you still drink a lot or here and there? How often do you drink alcohol these days?
I don't. I think it's been like a year and 6 months that I haven't drinking a
All right.
sip.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
alcohol has never been like something that I've been
Mhm.
that's been really that's been my thing, right? Like
Right.
some people, it just hits. For me, it's different things, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Definitely, I see it just as straight up poison these days. That's just how I view it. Because like, my body also can't deal with it anymore. Like, I'm not
yeah,
old. I'm 28 years old, but my body already is just like no, like this is no.
yeah,
But I definitely had a like a big period with alcohol where I was doing all of that and everything. And I think there's much better ways to party than alcohol too. So I don't see why we keep gravitating towards that. I mean, there's a whole industry around it and everything. So there's a lot of motivations that aren't that great. But definitely interesting if we could like take everything about alcohol that's nice and everything that's not nice out of it. Um, that'd be great, And I think there is a lot of that is going on with a lot of substances, like weed, for example. Like one strain or combination does something completely different to me and my body and the way I interact with people, how attentive I'm able to be than another strain. Usually, I have a hybrid for at night and a sativa for during the day if I want to work. It's like this would just work better for me.
Yeah.
Now I've been like just trying different flavors from this one brand I really like. I'm just noticing actually this hybrid I have right here is amazing for work, which I didn't expect. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it just much higher degree of concentration, being able to relate, just general awareness is really good, and still makes me feel happy. The thoughts that are holding me back aren't there as much. The thoughts of fear. It's like I can recognize that. So definitely,
Yeah,
uh,
that's
really
very
nice to be able to
interesting.
selectively like, oh, this is just
Yeah.
works that way for me. I'm
Uh-huh.
sure it's also not that way for everyone who takes this strain.
No, but when I used to, um, well, I feel like one aspect for me is just genetically, you
Mhm.
know, I I've researched that, and there is some research into why weed impacts some people negatively, right? Why they experience more fear, more paranoia, more
Mhm.
distress. And it does have to do with like genes, right? Like gene expressions. And I don't know
Yeah.
which genes there are, but yeah, I guess when you're able to selectively pick and choose, and that's something that I don't have any access to because
Right.
the Netherlands just sucks at that. Like, like like the last 10 years or so, we've gone from like number one to like bottom of the list because it's not legal, right? You can't grow it, you can't do research into it. So there isn't as much.
It's not as legal. Like people think of Netherlands as like weed being fully legal, but there's a lot of weird rules around it that we might as well do away with at this point,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. So, like, you can't grow it, you can't, you can only buy it, right? It's like very,
Right.
very confusing. Um, but like the capacity to be able to create strains and to be able to provide the information of like, all right, there is so much
Mhm.
CBD, so much THC in
Right.
this, so many alkaloids, different types, and that gives you the ability to like you said, pick and choose and experiment with how it affects you
Yeah.
differently.
It's very different. Are you able to import from like the US, for example, to the Netherlands and then sell that here in the Netherlands?
Well, I've it was a long time ago, like a
Because I
couple
would
years.
100% import the shit here they sell in the US and just start a little store in the Netherlands and just sell this stuff. Because
Yeah.
I know it would sell like hotcakes. Because it's just that different. There's more information. You have a lot of solid choice. It's cheap too. Like this cartridge, 2.2 milliliters. It's like 16 bucks buying directly from the supplier. There's no better like you just spend less money on this than like
Mhm.
for a month maybe it costs 50 bucks if you're using every day. So and then just the amount of times you can get high. And I love these vape pens, by the way, because they just allow you to control. It's like don't get higher than this, and you can get high really quickly, so you don't have to like take a gummy and anticipate like 3 hours from now it might be way too high or not high enough and want more. It's not great.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I
Probably
don't know.
some
Like,
regulations around that.
yeah, probably. I have bought in the past. Like, what's the like? It's like something with like I don't know. It's a vape, and it's like it's an alternative for weed. Um,
It's like a Delta 8.
yeah, exactly. I have
Yeah, yeah.
bought
This is also
Delta.
like a Delta 8, Delta 9
I
kind of
have
thing.
bought Delta 10 in the past, and Delta 8, I think. Yeah, they are available. Like online, I can buy
Oh, wow.
Delta 10.
I,
Yeah.
I wonder, like, because that would totally, I could definitely sell that. I know people would buy it too. Yeah,
Yeah, I think,
interesting.
well, yeah. there aren't a lot of shops that sell that, but I guess it is in some gray way legal. So, but I
Yeah.
haven't. I don't know if
If I
people are
wouldn't
as
sell it, I
aware.
just order it for myself because this is still so much better than going to a smoke shop. Even though I like the experience of just buying a pre roll and smoking that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
it's probably also like I don't know, just the impact on the lungs of like smoking like the whole plant.
yeah.
It's just way heavier.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. The oil seems less harsh on me than actually just smoking the entire plant. Yeah, even bong, everything. Although I like a good bong too. That's good. Hey, let me ask you next question. What is the altered state you're most fascinated with and why?
I would say like the DMT space,
Mm,
just because
good choice.
it's so vast. It's so much creativity. There's so much potential. It's just so uh, out of this world, right? Like just access to information that you're able to
Mm,
see is just so mind blowing.
it's
So yeah. So that's an altered state that's you said was most fascinating, or what was? Yeah, yeah,
fascinated with. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's it's not always like as valuable, right? Like to my
Mm,
life here, um, but like for the sake of like exploration of consciousness or past or different different dimensions, different
yeah.
realities, like um, yeah, it's like infinite, and so much novelty, which is something I love, right? Like
Yes.
just newness, just
Infinite novelty, but definitely
infinite
that
novelty.
that access to the infinite is like some to most people before you do psychedelics or like you learn science and everything. It's like, is the infinite really a thing? Is everything infinite? Like scientists are still questioning that to some degree. Um, but having that experience and seeing infinity essentially and being it, because you get in the state of being where you kind of are that space you're in too on DMT sometimes. It's just like infinity is real, and just the implications of that and the implications of what that means for what we are, who we are, and why we're here and everything, and how extremely loving God can be. Because true infinity implies being able to love and heal and grow from and learn from and see and find meaning in every single piece of shit in this world. Every dark lesson people can have, every little bit of suffering can have meaning through it beyond what we can see. Because the infinite can take care of everything. Like infinite power to love every piece of you and your life and healing all the relationships in you. Like knowing that the infinite exists, the implications you really go through them. It's freaking beautiful. Think about that non-duality, and I love this philosophy. And being able to see that infinite space, I 100% agree with you. It's fascinating and it's beautiful. So for so many reasons.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can relate to everything you said.
Let's see what other questions I have. Ooh, this is interesting. If you could only use one tool to alter your state for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Um, And with one tool, you mean like a psychedelic or
A tool is
other,
any tool,
whatever other.
psychedelic, like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
tool can be a technique.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I only had that.
anything that you can find any perspective of it being a tool.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a hard one because there's so many,
Hmm.
and
There's
they
so many.
offer just different ways in, right? They offer
Mhm.
different.
It also
They all
depends on
have
what
their
your
value.
goals are. Like, what do you want to achieve with your life, and what helps you with that most? It kind of forces you to
Yeah,
think, like, well, what
yeah,
would I really do?
exactly. And I think just like currently, I've been working with like Wachuma, like the San Pedro's cactus, and um, which is, you know, in my experience, just a plant which offers an experience which is way different than the
Mhm.
tryptamines, different than the DMT and the mushrooms, um, and what I like about it is that it's like we talked about how DMT can be like very big and
Yes.
infinite and so many like big things, right? So many, um, and Wachuma just simplifies it all, right? Like
Yes.
it's like about um, just gaining clarity on your life. It's about your connection to the earth, to your body, right? So, and
Yeah.
it has the potential for all of what DMT can offer you, right? Like it has that potential. It requires a longer path
Right.
and more patience, right, to get there.
It's just very grounded. It can be very grounded, from what I
It's
understand. We talked about it before, and it
yeah,
sounds so grounding. And the benefit of it to me sounds too like it's like, hey, I have something that grounds me in reality. Is able to do. I'm able to do healing work with, and I don't feel too far off from my regular life. So I can go back to a job or a thing or that relationship and not be all confused about the experience I just had because I was just told that I was here for this specific big meaning and now I have to figure out how to, like, and you feel so disconnected from yourself in some way.
yeah. The experience. It's like the integration is embedded in the experience. It's like it's like it's so. And again, like I'm just talking from my experience, right? Like
Mm,
it could be different from for other people, and I've heard stories of people, like um, having very crazy experiences with
mm,
mescaline, like seeing through their hands and seeing through the earth, and like
mm,
I don't know, it can take you to places. It can be
right.
visionary, especially if you do it in the night. It can take you up there, and
Mm,
uh, but for me it was like just about like about clarity, about understanding, about about connection, just like these very grounded this very grounded process, right, of like figuring things out in a way which would bring me clarity rather than a bunch of information which I would have to process and work
mm,
through. It's like
yeah. It sounds like a very gentle, nice way of working with medicine for sure. 'Cause I
yeah,
know like, you can have it intense as you want, and sometimes it is really nice to just work with one thing. Because like if I had to choose one, I don't know which one it would be. Honestly, I haven't even thought about this question for myself yet. Uh, because that's one of the things that I am bothered by too. It's like when I go on an ayahuasca journey, it can just sometimes leave me for like a month or even years after. I can be like, oh, what was that really about? I'm still trying to figure out like how to get to what it showed me. Like,
yeah,
uh, It's a great answer. Great answer.
Well,
Definitely
yeah,
want to try it sometime myself as well.
like the last guy that I've worked with Wachuma, his name is Sergey. He has like a retreat in Peru, which is called Wachuma Wasi, and he talks about how the first time that he tried Wachuma, he was like, "This is it," right? Like that like, and he talks about like he can get everything from that plant. His relationship with it offers him everything, right? He doesn't need
Wow.
anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting. That sounds like the same way Terrence McKenna had a relationship to mushrooms. Because he also said, it's like, hey, I can ask the mushroom to be anything. Hey, mushroom, be LSD, be ayahuasca, be this, and it would do that. That's very interesting. Like, I'm curious to some degree if that's just mushrooms, if it's just the quality of your relationship to a specific psychedelic, and if it's achievable with um, me psychedelic of a specific level. I'm curious because now I'm hearing this from multiple plants. It's like, what does a psychedelic compound or an altering something that alters your state need to be able to do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you. That's a great answer, and definitely, it's, I want to do it. I'm very curious. I'll definitely get to it at some point. It'll be an opportunity for me. Let's see. Next question. Uh, hmm. What altered state are you still looking to experience, and why? Is this something you haven't tried yet?
Mm, I don't currently have any desire, to like explore something. Um, I don't know, but something that I would be interested in the future, right time, right place, right intention,
Mhm.
but currently not don't have any desire or any longing. Um, I think would be 5MEO, just
Mhm.
yeah, just a place that it's able to take you, right? Just
Right.
uh,
And would you
the
want
dire, yeah.
would you want to try the natural version of the toad or go with synthetic version? Because those are two very different experiences.
I don't, in my eyes, it's I do understand the different positions that people have, which like like the different alkaloids in the in the frog and in the thing, which create
Mhm.
different, but like um, yeah, I don't know, I don't really mind.
All right. Yeah. No, I don't know. From I've only tried the natural version, and I don't hold anything grudge against the synthetic thing or anything. The synthetic one seems to be much longer lasting and a much more colorful experience. The experience of smoking the toad is just like a really ramped up, coming into the light, being one with everything, kind of experience where you have to move through a lot of your fears and letting go in a very rapid fashion. And it's a wonderful, beautiful, ecstatic bliss kind of experience, but it can also be hell if you're not able to let go. Um, so, uh, to me, those are two very different experiences. And I'm not sure if they're always that way. That's just my experience with them. So it could be very different, but from what I've heard in general, they're very different. But
Yeah,
I definitely am looking forward to using the synthetic one at some point because the way Leo describes it, it sounds very interesting.
yeah, and it really depends on what you're looking for, right? Like
Mm,
what kind of work you're looking to
yeah,
do.
I wouldn't be ready for it tomorrow. I'd take a while to get ready for it and plan that in. Ooh, and Yeah, that's a scary one. It's some it's a little anxiety that pops up when you think about something that's
Oh
that
yeah.
heavy. It's like full on God realization level stuff. Uh, you have to
Uh,
put it.
yeah, and just
Um,
processing that, just
mm, oh
I would
man,
think it would bring some instability and some like opening up of like I don't know belief systems and like
yeah,
worldview and it
definitely
just
think it could.
shakes you up a bit.
Yeah, I definitely. This is not something I would want to start with. That's my first psychedelic. No,
Okay.
I'm only considering it because I've been down that road. Well, once you do 5-MeO DMT, the natural version from the toad, you smoke that. That really cracks you open. And I think another preparation you have to do is be familiar with decently familiar with some concepts in non-duality and spirituality, and the philosophy, a little bit of epistemology, have worked some bit of your awareness of these things, because those concepts are just going to help you, and have some previous experience with psychedelics and everything that comes with that, because there is definitely a high degree of surrender with these substances that makes the experience so much easier, and being able to let go of those um, fears and all the stuff that pops up when you're on psychedelics, and already having experience and familiarity with that is just going to give you so much of a better experience. So don't do this as your first. For anyone watching out there, don't do this as your first. Let's see. Last question I have here. What are some things that help you manage your state on a day to day?
Just my mental state.
Yeah,
Just
your state of physical state, you're on a day to day. What are the things that help you stay in the state you want to be, alter your state to a degree that you find is helpful for you on a day to day? What are
I
those
think,
things?
yeah, like meditation is a big one. Just like the natural clenching and holding on and resisting of life that happens, of like feeling and of discomfort and of, there is this natural tendency, at least in me, to close off,
Mm,
to like, and meditation just helps me to open up to everything, right? To just observe
mm,
my sensations, my thoughts, and to let them flow, rather than like resist some of them and be selective on like, I just want to think this or feel this. Creates a lot of problems. So yeah, that's a big one for me, just be able to tap into like peace, to just feel rest, right? To just feel like letting go. Um, that's
yeah,
that's a big one.
no, definitely. Meditation is very important for me too. Man, I've been become a very different person after I started meditating in my life. That's for sure. It just gives you this
Yeah.
extreme clarity and awareness. And if anyone asks, like, awareness is the most important skill to cultivate on your journey, and meditation is one great way of cultivating it.
Mhm.
Training focus is one way as well, but just awareness and non-judgmental awareness. Like, and you do, like, just awareness doesn't imply judgment,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. No, exactly.
it has to be non-judgmental, like that, because if you're in judgment, you're no longer in awareness. Judgment comes after awareness. So if you're in judgment, you're no longer in awareness.
Yeah, and loving awareness,
Yes.
um, instead of like
Yeah. Try
like you
like
said,
practicing that
judgment and
unconditional loving awareness.
uh-huh,
It's like
you know,
natural. It's naturally there. So that when you're thinking loving awareness, it's not something you have to actively do or try hard at. It's more something you allow to arise from within yourself. At least that's my experience. Because I don't think that loving is something that we do. It's just something that we are. Just allow that to pour through us. I'm not sure if that's the same way for you. What was your experience when you say loving awareness?
yeah, I don't know if it's I would like want to agree on like a conceptual level of like,
Mm,
yeah, I understand, but like I don't know if I experience it that way, like
that's fair.
uh, yeah, I can tap into it, but like it's to me for me it has to be like, and not always, but like sometimes in meditation it is very like, and maybe it's the step towards like to opening to it. I think,
Mm.
yeah, maybe,
Yeah, so
I think
there's
I
different
have
ways
to like
you get there.
open up to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, there's different ways to get there. Absolutely, and there's different levels of the ways you experience that. Some people are still practicing self love and are starting really have to consciously, oh, I'm gonna love this. And for a lot of people, it's easier to imagine kindness when they're first starting to love things. It's like, okay, loving is kindness, and it is. But loving is real, true love. Love is such a deep word, and you can learn more and a deeper understanding of it, which then transforms the way you practice it. And loving in the sense of kindness and compassion to your own thoughts, your own body, when you're meditating, and practicing that is an absolutely 100% correct way to do it. There's
Hmm.
no wrong way to meditate. But I'm saying love is, there is a deeper level to that, even because love,
Yeah,
I do believe that, as I said, love is something that's inherently there that you can just allow to arise and like flow through you. It's not something that, and it's unconditional. So it doesn't have to be just positive or negative. And that way you can love every part of yourself and everyone else.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. And the cliche thing of like it's within, right? Like you just have to tap
yeah.
inwards, and it's right there.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly. Exactly. You have to tap in, and that's, no judgment if you don't get there immediately or whatever. Like it unfolds as it naturally does. So no urge to be in this state or that state. You have to be able to already be there and get that. It's completely okay. There's no wrong way to meditate. It doesn't
hmm,
exist. Uh, so I do. I would love to talk a little bit about the psychedelic experience we had together when we went through our ayahuasca journey. And thank you for asking all of the questions. I've really enjoyed this conversation so far. Really appreciate you being here. Um, but we did ayahuasca once together. Was that your first time doing ayahuasca, or I'm not exactly sure?
yeah, yeah. No, it was both our first time, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah,
my first time too. Yeah, that was that was an interesting experience. We went
that was like
to Silverboom. What's it called?
6 years ago.
Holy shit, that's 6 years ago.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
more.
even 7. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think 6.
time flies when you get married. No, it's kidding. Uh, yeah, it's a long time ago. How do you look back at that experience these days?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a long time. Mm, it was, yeah, it was just initiation, and something beautiful. It
It was
was,
an initiation, yeah.
yeah. It was, for me, it was very like gentle, you know. Uh, I think it had to do with the brew, with the space, with,
Mm-hmm.
like the person providing it,
Mm-hmm.
but also with just my journey with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I just needed that.
It was a
Yeah,
good introduction. I also had a pretty mild experience, visually at least. I had a very interesting experience too.
I can.
It did
Well,
a lot of different things.
I know. I can remember physically. You were just like at one point, like just throwing up, like just it was just straight coming out of you. Just like a cannon, just a racket.
Was that experience? Oh, I don't remember if it. I remember. Yeah, I think I was just sitting. I was like having a good time, and all of a sudden, it's like whoa, like, there it just went
Just
out
like
of nowhere.
180 out of nowhere. You just go, blah.
It's like, yeah, yeah. I also physically, like, I remember at one point I felt its energy in my body, like masculine and feminine energy. Like, and I can't explain the feeling. This is something you have to directly experience to understand and know it. But it was a clear masculine and a feminine energy, kind of like two orbs, but like just moving throughout my body and my legs and coming up here and dancing and then creating friction together and then like passing through each other and continuing. It was this wonderful experience of those two elements and energies that I believe are in everyone. Everyone has masculine and feminine energy to different degrees and different expressions. Uh, Expressing themselves in my body. It was like wonderful to experience. It's so interesting because like, oh wow, I really experienced like this masculine and feminine thing is not just a concept we've created, but that's really the energy that's flowing through my body right now. That is like wow, the implications of that. Uh, and yeah, it's just a wonderful experience. Did you have any like body experience during that first ayahuasca journey of yours?
I don't know exactly. What I do have with with ayahuasca is like this very like tactic tactile, very like animalistic like sensations, or like just like um yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I
Mhm.
just feel like a jaguar moving through the jungle. Like I don't know, like that feeling, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what are you hunting? Or are you a very satiated jaguar?
I don't know if it was hunting something. I just remember
Okay.
like this very tactile experience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it was a beautiful initiation. Well, do you remember anything about your conversation with ayahuasca?
I don't think the first time I had like a clear conversation, right? Like I think by the second time or third time I started to have like this dialogue. The first time
Right.
was just like an experience, right? Just um,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because I remember we have a weird intertwined relationship with ayahuasca almost because I remember one time you had a journey and ayahuasca told you to tell me that I'm on the right path.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
it
very
was just
interesting.
like just a message that I had to get through, Just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, this is very interesting to me because like ayahuasca, like the first like this is so I don't I'm not a big fan of being handed predictions or prophecies. But the first time I did ayahuasca, it was already like, okay, choose the name of your first child. Here is the woman you're gonna marry. Like, and not exactly the name, but it's like, hey, like long dark hair, and this woman, and you're gonna meet her soon, and you're gonna have two children, and like name your first child. That's like okay, all right, sure, I'll play this game with you. I'm being open, like the way I approach that is just like I try to be open to whatever and not try to not hold any attachment to what's being handed. It's like here's like this great vision, and like okay, well that's really beautiful, and I love that, and I want it, but
Yeah. And a lot of
I
times like
stay
the
open.
voice of ayahuasca is like the voice of your own desires and of your own longings, like the things that you
It can be,
want.
yeah. It
Yeah.
can be. It's just something that's also like when you get, I get some of these, I've had more like, experiences where they're telling me specific things and they're kind of like, they have potentials to be illusions of grandeur and things like that. So I'm like, it's like, okay, that's, I'm going with the experience, not resisting it. It's like, oh, that's really nice. That's, oh, wow. it's amazing. I feel so honored, or whatever. But so like, and then, but then after, like releasing attachment to that, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna move the way I do usually, but I'm not gonna force this. And it's hard for me sometimes because like this is what
Hmm.
part of the integration work I have to do uh, a lot of, because some of these experiences, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to deal with this. I really want that, right? And I am willing to like direct my life in a way to move towards that, but I releasing that attachment that constantly gets generated because there is a deep part of me that desires that, and moving without the moving without moving whilst being aware of all the ego traps that creates
Hmm.
is very difficult.
Um,
Yeah,
could we please wrap up? Like, I'm just
yeah,
my
totally.
attention is getting, you know, I
No
start to
worries.
notice that like,
Yeah, I appreciate you. That's completely fine. We went through all the questions. Just thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone who's watching for being here. Uh, yeah, do you have any yeah, anything to say before we close?
well, thank you for having me. I think great questions, awesome conversation, very interesting. We touched on some very interesting things, and yeah.
Definitely. And if anyone wants, we can continue the conversation in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe. We'll be back. I don't know when, and I don't know with who, for the next podcast at some date in the future. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Have a great day. Bye bye.